Welcome to Students Incorporated. I'm your host, Mr. Jason. Join me weekly as my students and I bring you content that's informative, positive, fun, and uplifting. This podcast is created and produced with the help of students from the International Community School of Bangkok. Have you ever looked at a current fashion trend and thought, wait a minute, didn't my parents wear that? How much of today's culture is brand new and how much is just a remix of the past? It's a feeling many of us have had, whether it's seeing flared jeans back in style or hearing a popular synth beat from the 80s in a brand new pop song. The past is always present. Today, we're putting that feeling under the microscope. We're going on a pop culture road trip, making stops in the iconic decades from the 70s up till now to explore the music, movies, and moments that defined each of those decades. And then we'll turn our eyes toward the future. What will define the 2020s and what's next? But before we jump back to the 70s, let's hear our quote of the day and get some headline news.
For a quote of the day, we're turning to a true icon of modern pop culture, Beyoncé, who once said, "I don't like to gamble, but if there's one thing I'm willing to bet on, it's myself." Now, on the surface, that's a powerful statement about self-belief. And you can see it in her career. She has constantly evolved, taken huge creative risks, and trusted her own vision. She's a masterclass in betting on yourself. But it also brings up a bigger question that's perfect for our topic today. When we see that the level of iconic confidence, how do we use it as an inspiration without trying to copy it? Pop culture gives us heroes, but the real challenge is to take a piece of their fire and use it to build our own path, based on our own convictions. It's that balance between being inspired by culture and being defined by it. Something for us to keep in mind as we get started. And that's our quote of the day. Now on to some headline news.
Thank you for our quote of the day. Alright, now it's time for a look at what's making news in the world of pop culture right now. First up, from Billboard. The music industry is talking about the recent MTV Video Music Awards, which delivered one of the most controversial moments in the show's history. While pop superstar Ava Chen took home Video of the Year, the big story is the Vanguard Award being given to the virtual AI-powered artist known as Aura. Legacy artists and critics are arguing it devalues human creativity, while a new generation of digital creators is hailing it as the future of entertainment. The debate completely overshadowed a night that also featured a surprise reunion performance from The Fugues, making for one of the most talked about VMAs in recent years. Next, a story from The Hollywood Reporter that could signal a huge change in how we watch movies. After years of prioritizing their streaming platform, Warner Bros. Discovery just announced a major strategic shift back to the theatrical first model. The move comes after reports of unpredictable streaming profits and widespread subscriber fatigue. Most notably, they announced a slate of new mid-budget dramas, a genre focused on adult stories without superhero budgets that was considered nearly extinct. Theater chains have praised the decision, hoping it will bring a more consistent and diverse audience back into cinemas. And finally, a story from Vogue that proves the cyclical nature of pop culture is alive and well. The undeniable trend dominating the runways of Paris Fashion Week was a massive revival of the 1990s minimalism and grunge. We're talking spaghetti-strap slip dresses, oversized flannels, chunky combat boots, and stark clean silhouettes. Trend forecasters suggest this is a direct reaction against the chaotic algorithm-driven micro-trends of the early 2020s, with consumers craving more authentic, lasting styles. So, from AI artists redefining celebrities to Hollywood rediscovering the magic of cinema and 90s fashion making a defiant return, it's clear the past and future are colliding in pop culture today.
Thank you for the quote and headline news. It's funny that story about 90s fashion isn't just news to me, it's a flashback, which is the perfect segue to our main event. For my co-host and our guest, we're about to discuss history. For me, we're discussing the first half of my life. So let's dive into the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Let's start with the 1970s. My earliest memories are of the look of that decade. The earthy tones, the oranges and browns, and the bold geometric patterns on everything from shirts to wallpaper. Goldenrod was a color used on kitchen appliances. Shag carpet was a thing as well. I have this old family photo. I'm from a family of 5. I have an older brother and a younger sister. Anyways, this photo was taken as my parents were taking us to church, I think, and my mother had dressed my brother and I in a full plaid suit, browns and yellows. Even the quality of the photo, my mother's hairstyle, my dad's expression on his face, my sister's church dress, and her hairstyle, the whole image just screamed the 1970s through and through. So when I think of the 1970s, that old photo comes to mind. That and the orange shag carpet in the living room of our house I grew up in.
It was incredibly distinct, not that I was alive yet, but we can all do the research on that decade. You had the flared bottom jeans, sky-high platform shoes, and corduroy everywhere. It was a mix of bohemian hippie holdovers and this new slick disco glamour. The patterns were bold, the collars were wide, and there was a confidence to the style that was really unique. And people wore that stuff with confidence.
And the movies became just as bold. The 70s invented the modern blockbuster with Jaws and Star Wars, but it was also a gritty decade for film with classics like The Godfather and Taxi Driver. It was this amazing split between epic fantasy and harsh reality.
It's true, and the music reflected the same split. I remember my car radio playing this huge mix of classic rock anthems from bands like Queen and the Eagles. Well, not my car, but my parents' car and my friends' cars.
Like most pop culture and music, the 70s has a clash of music styles. While the airwaves were full of massive, polished rock and the glamour of disco, the underground was hitting back with raw, three-chord energy of punk rock. It was a total rejection of the mainstream spectacle.
People even talked differently to a degree. People were saying things like, "Can you dig it?" or calling things groovy.
It sounds like a movie, honestly. It sounds so stylized. You can hear it sampled in music or see it in retro t-shirts. But it's hard to imagine people actually saying Jive Turkey. Seriously, it feels like a different language.
I promise you they did. Okay, so to wrap up this fascinating decade, the 1970s, Proud put together a top 10 list of its most iconic cultural hallmarks. Go ahead and share those with us.
According to the internet, the top 10 cultural hallmarks of the 1970s are 10. Bell-bottom jeans. 9. The TV shows All in the Family. 8. Punk rock. 7. The Godfather. 6. Saturday Night Fever. 5. Lava Lamps. 4. Pet Rocks. 3. The word groovy. 2. Platform shoes. And the number 1 on the movie that changed everything, Star Wars.
What a list, from Pet Rocks to Star Wars. Now let's step into my teenage years, the bright, bold, loud, and totally awesome 1980s. For me, the 80s were all about color, neon pinks, electric blues, and everything felt bigger, especially the hair and people's attitudes.
The fashion was pure spectacle. You had the huge shoulder pads, the acid-wash jeans, and the leg warmers. It was the decade of spandex and big, bold brand logos. It felt like fashion was shouting, where the 70s had been more of a groove.
And the music was shouting too. MTV launched and created a new breed of pop superstars like Michael Jackson and Madonna, whose videos were global events. But you also had new wave, the birth of mainstream hip-hop, and of course, the over-the-top glamour of big hair metal bands.
Oh, the hair metal bands. Yes, there was a lot of them. I definitely had some of those tapes. The movies were dominated by high-content blockbusters like E.T., Ghostbusters, and Back to the Future. And of course, the iconic John Hughes teen films. And the way we talked completely changed. We were all like totally saying like all the time. Phrases like gag me with a spoon and grody to the max were everywhere. And we said words like awesome a lot, really a lot. So much so that the word has lost its actual meaning and impact.
The 80s slang is the one I hear the most in movies. It seems like every film set in the 80s has a character who says rad or totally in every sentence. It has become a kind of cultural shorthand for the whole decade.
It really has. All right, James, give us the definitive top 10 list. What were the biggest cultural touchstones of the 1980s?
It was a decade of gadgets and icons. Here's the top 10s for the 1980s. Number 10, leg warmers. Actually gonna warm up my leg here. Alright, 9, the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. 8, the movie The Breakfast Club, a true classic of its time. 7, MTV. 6, the movie E.T., the extraterrestrial. 5, big hair and shoulder pads. 4, the Rubik's Cube. I solved a couple of them back in my day. Number 3, the phrase "like totally." Number 2, Michael Jackson's Thriller album. And the number 1 invention that defined the decade's personal freedom, the Sony Walkman.
Ah, the Walkman. I had 2 of them. The first one I had played tapes, and then I had to buy a new version of the Walkman as the music industry started going digital and putting out all their music on CDs. What a great list. Now we'll move into my 20s, the 1990s, and after the bright colors of the 1980s, the 90s felt like a color saturation was turned way down.
The fashion of the 1990s was a direct reaction against the 1980s. The grunge look came out of Seattle, flannel shirts, ripped baggy jeans, Doc Martens. It was anti-fashion. At the same time, hip-hop culture introduced its own iconic style with starter jackets and baggy sportwear. It was all about being casual and comfortable.
And the movie saw a huge shift with the rise of independent filmmakers like Quentin Tarantino with Pulp Fiction. And of course, technology changed everything with CGI blockbusters like Jurassic Park and Titanic. TV was also huge with Friends and Seinfeld.
Musically, it was a mashup. Grunge took over, but then you had the slick R&B of groups like Boyz II Men and the global explosion of pop with the Spice Girls and Britney Spears. And the slang got a bit more sarcastic. We were saying as if, talk to the hand, and if you wanted to know what was going on, you'd ask, what's the 411?
That one is still used sometimes, which is funny, but the phrase as if is so iconic because of the movie Clueless. It's another one of those things where a movie defines a whole generation's slang for people looking back.
It's so true. The 90s really set the stage for the world we live in now. Esther, go ahead and close out this segment. What's on the top 10 list for the 1990s?
Alright, this list bridges the analog and digital world. The top 10 for the 1990s: 10. The Sony PlayStation. 9. Pulp Fiction. 8. Spice Girls. 7. Grunge Fashion. 6. The movie Jurassic Park. 5. Beanie Babies. 4. TV show Friends. 3. The phrase as if. 2. Nirvana's album Nevermind. And the number 1 thing that changed the world forever, the internet and the sound of dial-up.
The dial-up sound. Oh, the perfect cliffhanger. We've journeyed from bell-bottoms and groovy to grunge and the birth of the web. When we come back, we will dive headfirst into the digital world with the 2000s and beyond right after this short PSA.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey everyone, we're taking a quick break from our trip through the decades to discuss the world that the internet has created. We just spent time in the 70s, 80s, and 90s when your favorite song, movie, or TV show came on from just a handful of trusted sources. But today, we live in a world with millions of channels. We get our news, our entertainment, and our culture from countless feeds, creators, and accounts, all competing for our attention. It's an amazing thing, but it also means that the responsibility is on us to be critical thinkers. Misinformation spreads fast, and it's designed to get a strong emotional reaction. So here's a simple challenge. Before you share that shocking headline or that viral clip, just take 5 seconds and ask yourself these 3 questions. Who made this? What's the real story? And how does this make me feel? By taking that pause, you're not just being a smart consumer of media, you're helping build a better, more thoughtful culture online. And that's a trend worth starting.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. Before the break, we ended the 90s with the sound of a dial-up modem, a sound that was the quiet beginning of a revolution. In the 2000s, that revolution exploded, and for me, it changed my daily life as it was part of my early career. This was the decade the internet went from a niche hobby to the center of the universe. There was a huge shift in music as well. People went from having shelves of CDs to suddenly hearing about this thing called Napster.
The 2000s was a digital Wild West for the music industry. Peer-to-peer file sharing like Napster completely upended the business model of the music. And then Apple's iPod and iTunes came along and created a new one. It was the death of the physical album and the birth of the 99-cent single. It changed how we valued music forever.
And the fashion was your choice. The Y2K aesthetic was a mix of futuristic and casual. We're talking about the rise of low-rise jeans, velour tracksuits, trucker hats, and pop-punk skater look with chunky sneakers and bracelets. It was a very distinct and until recently often mocked style.
My parents' photos from that time are wild. It's funny because that exact style is what's making a huge comeback on TikTok right now. What was once considered cringe is now cool again.
It always comes back around. And on TV, everything changed too. I remember watching the first seasons of American Idol and Survivor. We suddenly had this explosion of reality television.
Reality TV took over because it was cheap to produce and incredibly popular. But at the same time, cable channels like HBO were starting the golden age of prestige TV with shows like The Sopranos and The Wire, proving that television could be as cinematic and complex as film.
It's true, and the slang was a mix of hip-hop culture going mainstream and celebrity catchphrases. I remember hearing bling, and of course, Paris Hilton making "That's Hot" a global phenomenon. Okay, to put a bow on this chaotic and transformative decade, VJ, go ahead and give us the top 10 list.
You got it. The top 10 cultural hallmarks of the 2000s are 10. Low-rise jeans and trucker hats. 9. The TV show The Office. 8. The Harry Potter phenomenon. 7. Reality TV, such as American Idol and Survivor. 6. MySpace. 5. The Motorola Razr. 4. The phrase, "That's hot." 3. The Lord of the Rings film trilogy. 2. The rise of Eminem. And at number 1, the device that put 1,000 songs in your pocket, the Apple iPod.
From that digital Wild West, we move into the 2010s, the decade where the internet, for me, stopped being something on my desk and moved into my pocket. This was the decade of the smartphone.
The smartphone changed everything. It meant the internet was always with you, and that paved the way for social media to dominate our lives. MySpace was replaced by Facebook, Twitter, and especially Instagram. Streaming services like Netflix and Spotify killed the video store and the MP3 download. And the algorithm started curating our likes and dislikes for us.
And that directly shaped the music. The idea of a genre started to fade, replaced by algorithm-driven playlists and moods. But it was also a decade of massive pop superstars like Taylor Swift, Drake, and Beyoncé, who learned how to master the new digital landscape to connect directly with their fans.
The 2010s also gave us the influencer. The idea that a regular person could build a massive audience on Instagram or YouTube and become a new kind of celebrity was born in this decade. It completely changed the meaning of fame, and slang became pure internet speak and shorthand for longer phrases. Things like YOLO and FOMO meant something when we saw it in a text message. It felt like a new language was being born online.
This decade really set the stage for the world we live in right now. Josiah, what does the definitive top 10 list for the 2010s look like?
It's a list dominated by technology and new things. The top 10 of the 2010s. 10. Athleisure fashion. 9. The selfie. 8. The TV show Game of Thrones. 7. The concept of binge watching. 6. The Marvel Cinematic Universe. 5. The phrase YOLO, you only live once. 4. Instagram. 3. Netflix streaming. 2. The dominance of Taylor Swift. And at number 1, the device that runs our entire world, the smartphone.
And that brings us to today, the 2020s. We've gone from the radio to the Walkman to the smartphone. Vanaj, from your perspective, what's the single biggest force driving pop culture right now?
It's not even a question. It's TikTok and other social media platforms. Trends in music, fashion, and slang are now born on those platforms. Trends born on these platforms can dominate global culture for 3 weeks and then be completely gone. The trend cycle is faster than it has ever been, and it feels like everything is a remix or remix. Y2K fashion is back, 80s synth sounds are in pop music, and it's all happening at once. It's like culture is being recycled.
And we're in the middle of another technological earthquake with AI. AI is already creating art, writing songs, and generating videos. That's going to fundamentally challenge our ideas of creativity and celebrity in the next few years.
So that brings us to our final question. The whole point of this journey, we've seen how culture evolves and how it repeats itself. Looking forward, what is your prediction for the future of pop culture?
I predict we'll see a push and pull. The trend cycle will get even faster online, but I think we'll see a growing counterculture movement focused on offline experiences, local concerts, and craft markets. things that feel real and tangible as a reaction against the digital world.
I think AI is going to become a seamless tool for creators. We'll see blockbuster movies with AI-generated effects that are indistinguishable from reality and pop stars who collaborate with AI on their music. It will be controversial, but it'll just become a part of the toolkit. And we all see a lot of people embracing the old ways in some areas, like buying brick phones again or embracing record players and building a large library of vinyl stuff.
I predict that the very idea of a mainstream pop culture will disappear completely. The algorithm means we all live in our own personalized culture bubbles. There won't be one big thing. There will be millions of tiny niche cultures, and everyone's idea of what's popular will be totally different.
Yeah, I think that's so true. This takes me back to the idea of everything becoming hyper-personalized to that extent. Like you said, we each in some way are part of a micro pop culture that has been tailored just for us, and maybe a few of our family members and friends. Those are some fascinating predictions, so thank you. And listening to you all, it strikes me that while the technology, the fashion, and the slang change dramatically, the core human need for stories, for music, and for connection hasn't changed at all. We've just found new, faster ways to share it. And the slang is moving faster than ever. It feels like a new word pops up every week. What are some popular slang words being used right now?
You will probably hear some of these words floating around the hallways here at school. Slay, drip, no cap, sus, mid, riz, spill the tea, oh my days.
Wow. Okay. What a list. Yes, and I have heard some of those. I think I'm in my trying to keep up with slang era since I hang out with people your age most of the week. So thank you for enlightening me with those words. Okay, moving on. And since we are only halfway through the 2020s so far, we have only put together a top 5 list instead of a top 10 list. So here's the top 5 for the 2020s so far.
That's right, it's a snapshot of a decade in motion. The top 5 cultural forces of the 2020s so far are 5. The Y2K fashion revival. 4. The Barbenheimer cinematic event. 3. The global dominance of K-pop. 2. The AI platforms like ChatGPT and others. And at number 1, the engine of modern culture, TikTok and Instagram.
All right, thank you for that short list for the 2020s. Just because pop culture is changing at light speed, our fundamental need to find our tribe, find our community, and share our story or share something we love and appreciate with them, that's the timeless part. So thank you for letting us take you through the pop culture of the decades. And that brings us to the end of our pop culture road trip. We've gone from the 1970s to today, from making mixtapes to streaming on TikTok. And it's clear that while the technology and the trends are always changing, our need to share the things we love is timeless. A huge thank you to all our co-hosts and student guests for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to Students Incorporated wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss our next episode. Until then, thanks for listening. And as always, this podcast would not be possible without the hard work and support of our international student production team.
All music and sound effects are courtesy of Pixabay.com, a vibrant community of creatives sharing copyright-free images, videos, and music.
And we are signing off until next time. We are Students Incorporated, because your voice matters.